Last week I laid down 5 fundamental actions that you need to take to get your teaching career started all by yourself. It's definitely possible to go it alone as an English teacher from the start. I've seen many great English teachers on Instagram grow huge followings, and they never advertise for students because their books are always full, and there's no reason you can't be that teacher as well. If you don't watch any further, if you take nothing from this video, I want you to take away this one secret of successful entrepreneurs, and that is marketing your business shouldn't be an afterthought. It's not the little sprinkles you put on the cake at the end to make it cute and pretty. It is the glue, it's the jam that runs right in the middle of that bun that holds your business together. So it might not come naturally for you to brag about what you do in your business. It doesn't come naturally to me, to be honest. But now there's no manager around to big you up, so there's no time to be humble. You've got to brag it yourself because nobody's going to give you Employer of the Week. So without further ado, these are 5 things you need to get clear on with your brand before you start advertising to students. If you set these intentions, marketing your services will come easier to you. Point number 1, find your teaching niche. Now you might be thinking, what do you mean? How is there a niche within teaching? Isn't the fact I'm an English teacher niche enough? The truth is, an English teacher with a social media account that talks about grammar one day and then has a skit the next day and then there's punctuation the next day, it can easily get lost in the crowd. Whereas honing on your strengths and putting yourself as an expert in that one specific strength will appeal to students because they trust you're the pronunciation gal, you're the person they can come to really get their head around speaking in a British accent or American accent or South African accent, for example. So you might already think that there is a niche that you want to talk about yourself, but here are some to get your cogs whirring. The first one that springs to mind is teaching kids. It's not for everyone, it's not everyone's cup of tea, but if you are high energy and are patient with children, it could be a really fulfilling route for you to take. It involves a lot of body language and learning through games and play, so you can really let your imagination loose as an English teacher for children. And what's more, there's always a demand. There are always babies that become children that then their parents want them to learn another language so that they can get ahead early in life. Another popular niche that came up a lot in my time as a teacher is teaching for IELTS. Now, if you don't know, if you're still really new to the profession, IELTS is the test speakers need to take. Usually a visa can depend on it, a job can depend on it, so people wanting to live in countries like Canada, for example, will need to get a certain level on IELTS, and you can take extra training to become an IELTS teacher. You can charge a bit more because it's a very specific set of skills that you need to teach them. Isn't that often on a film? I have a very specific set of skills. Where have I heard that? Anyway, once you've taught a small group of students through IELTS, you can ask them what their pass rate was. And if you get a pretty good pass rate, then you can promote that. You can say you have a 100% success rate in IELTS coaching, for example. Another niche, what I touched on earlier, is teaching pronunciation. I follow pronunciation with Emma, who's great at this. It's something I would never have thought of. It seems so specific, and she's made so many great videos out of teaching pronunciation alone. I have Yorkshire accent that I think, honestly, I feel like I disguise a bit in these videos because I'm so aware of it. But if you know that you are good at articulating and understand phonetics very well, then there you go, there's a niche to go into. Another one is to focus on professional English. So similarly to teaching for IELTS, but a little bit more holistic, you could teach English for a specific purpose. If your last job was in science, for example, you might specialise in teaching specific terminology people would need in jobs involving science. For this, you'd get more students that might want help with university applications. Again, that's a huge market. So many people travel for study as well as travel for work. And finally, if you really don't feel like you're that strong in any of those areas, but you know you're still strong enough to teach English, your selling point can be you. No one can teach like you do, and your personality is your niche as well. So if you're exceptionally funny, if you're like funny guy, who doesn't want a funny teacher? Market that. And again, I know prolific teachers that are an example of this, like Papa Teach Me always does like funny skits with crazy wigs and things. It might put some people off, yes, some people that are more serious, but like they say, you can be the juiciest peach in the orchard and there'll still be someone that doesn't like peaches. You may as well just lean into it. The other thing about using your personality is you become your brand, and that's what a lot of the most successful teachers do on YouTube. There are teachers who don't actually teach anymore other than by providing video content because they grew such a big audience and they can create big networks and events for students, but their time is too valuable now. They don't need to teach one-to-one anymore. The next thing you've got to bear in mind when putting things on your website, building your website, is to search engine optimize. And it's not as scary as it sounds. There was a time when search engine optimization, SEO, was all about using tricks and keyword stuffing, but Google's smart to all that now. All you need to do is do what you say you're going to do. So for example, it's a waste of time to blog about teaching IELTS if you want to attract students and the rest of your website is geared towards students that are children. There is more technicality to it. Again, it's a story for another time. But if you just write in plain English, explaining what you're going to do and do that thing, then you'll start to create trust in the people that visit your site, and they will stay on your site longer and they will convert to customers and Google will start to trust you. That's SEO in the most simplistic top level. And what SEO means is to get your website ranking on the first page of Google. I will share more tips on SEO, but if you want to advance your skills on it now, I did a course about becoming an SEO expert, and I'll link the video I did about it here because I do have a discount for that course. It's normally like £90 and it's £15 with my discount code, and I did it myself. I'm not trying to flog you something that I don't believe in. I did it myself, put it on my CV, got my job in copywriting and SEO. Point number 3 follows on from SEO is to be accessible. So make sure your website is accessible. Think about how a blind person would navigate it. So when you shove an image on a homepage or in a blog, when it gives you the option to give an alt description of what is in that image, use it. It's not just good for the people who might be visually impaired who come to your site. I remember I did have a student who was blind, spoke phenomenal English. So it's definitely, you wouldn't want to exclude any potential student with a disability from the fact that you're human, but also from a good business sense point of view as well. Point 4 is my favourite, and that is to give your knowledge away for free. Yes, for free. You don't need to be guarded with the knowledge that you have on English, because students will still want to pay for that one-to-one interaction and to practice their speaking. So put it all out there on the internet for free. It might feel like a lot of work for little input, but again, coming back to consistency that I spoke about in the previous video, consistency in your socials, consistency in spreading your message as an English expert. Clearly, I am not a pronunciation expert, does pay off. So how can you give information away for free? Not just on social posts, but you could host monthly webinars where you speak about a specific topic and invite people to join, then follow up their attendance with an email telling them more about yourself and about how they can learn with you one-to-one, for example. So the fifth and final point, I've given you lots of homework there. You've got to think about your niche, you've got to optimize your website with blogs, and you might think that I'm not really much of a writer. Simply write how you talk. Even English experts experience writer's block. You might make your whole plan, you know exactly what it is you want to talk about, but then when it comes to sitting down and writing the blog about the thing, your mind goes blank and you can't remember what it is about the thing that you wanted to say about the thing. To start off, don't get in your head about how you're going to sound, how professional you're going to sound. Don't worry about the tone of voice you want to set. A classic marketing trick to overcome writer's block is to imagine you're speaking to someone you have in mind. So it might be a student you've already had, it might just be your best friend. Imagine them, imagine how you speak if you want to tell them about some new trainers that you've bought. You don't see them, maybe they live away, and you want to say, oh, by the way, I bought those trainers I was talking about. They do this and they're good for running, and they did a test with me on the treadmill to see what my running style is, so they knew what type of sole to recommend to me. It's really cool, blah blah blah. Think of the same with English. You might want to say, oh, I found this cool new resource for English learners. It's called Engu, and you go on it and it's got modern real-time news articles, but they're simplified so that you can I'm just thinking how I'm not really explaining this that well, but it will translate better on the page. All you need to do is write it, even if you include your ends and buts and whats. Get it on the page and then you can edit it. Before you know it, you've got your first piece of content for your site, and it's in your tone of voice. You just need to clean up the edges. I hope those tips are helpful in helping you establish your niche and your tone of voice and your authority as you start to market your English services. If you want me to have a nosy at your website, pop it in the comments below and we can all have a look at each other's websites and see if it's clear what our niches are. I'll pop mine below too, and I will see you next week, where I'm going to go a little bit deeper into pricing your services and getting that all important price list all tight and ready to go for new students. Again, do all the things. If you liked this video, if you're finding it helpful, please like and subscribe, and I will see you soon. Mwah! There's nothing, such a squeaky chat, something that's the icing of, but if you I will share more I will.